Hi, it's Joe. Welcome to the Quilt Report. Well, when a controversy erupted recently in the quilt world about somebody making pronouncements about what you could and couldn't do with old quilts, specifically cutting them up to make clothing out of it. I've made no secret of my distaste for that practice, but the last thing I would ever be interested in doing is telling somebody what they can and cannot do. I'm a free speech absolutist, man. You should be able to talk about anything you want to talk about, and you should be able to make art any way you want, any way you can think of that you want to make art using any materials, right? I'm all for that. So instead of telling people what they can't do, all I've decided to do is to do what I can, right? Which is more speech. So a long time ago, 10 years ago, I made a quilt inspired by the Robert Rauschenberg work called Bed, where he nailed a log cabin quilt in the pillow and sheets to a piece of plywood, and then painted on the top half of this quilt in a kind of abstract expressionist way. He did this in 1955 and left the bottom half of this log cabin quilt just sticking out there, meaning it was a de facto collaboration between him and an anonymous woman, presumably a woman of the past. That's his right to do. And the only thing that bothered me about it was how people talked about how he had taken a humble domestic object, just a blanket, and glorified it by making it into a work of art. My position was always that it was a work of art already, and that it didn't need to be, it was not elevated by being made into somebody else's work. It's a collaboration where the maker of this one half of it is unacknowledged, right? Well, anyway, so instead of complaining about it, I wanted to do something about it. So I decided if an artist could take a humble domestic object, like a humble domestic quilt, and make it into a work of art, maybe I could take some humble domestic paintings and make them into a work of quilt. So this is what I did. I cut up a bunch of paintings and sewed them back together in chunks, and whenever I got a chunk done, I would put a piece of yellow bias tape on there, and I made a work called Bed, after Rauschenberg, right? If you can cut up a quilt and make it into a work of art, then you can cut up paintings and make it into a work of quilt. So then I like that idea, and I've been collecting paintings, and I use them from time to time in my quilts, like this one. This one is called The Imperial Arch of Harriet Powers. I quilted in a transcription of the only known photograph of the famous Harriet Powers, the creator of the two extremely well-known Bible quilts, right? And in order to honor Harriet, as an artist, I decided to give her her own archway. Like we would honor soldiers or something. An imperial arch made out of paintings. So it's art that's been cut up and made into an archway strictly for Harriet Powers on her quilt. Right? If we can cut up quilts, we can cut up paintings. Why not? Just because it's illegal and unethical doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. So anyway, I want more speech, not less, right? So now, talking about cutting up quilts for fashion, I decided to jump on the bandwagon and make my own quilt, and quilted it with a coat pattern designed by my friend Connie Walkershaw, the great clothing designer here in San Francisco. So you can see the front coat panels are here, the back is here, there's the collar and I don't know what all these parts are, but if you were to buy my quilt, then you could cut it up and make it into a very expensive dress, coat, right? This is what we should be doing. We should be making art about this, not having arguments about it. We can make art on this subject, right? Thanks for stopping by. See you next time.